Hello, dear friends. It was said the world would be in flames before the VR. Perhaps we are close. Opinion piece. Saint Germain trust. Energy shift. A shift in mindset. We are underway. The lock is broken. It's not a fairy tale. Conflicts and tensions. A period of great changes. Apocalyptic signs in the sky. Nobody knows what will happen next. Let's start. The Saint Germain Trust is a gigantic global fund or reserve of economic abundance with unlimited resources intended for humanity to release wealth, cancel debts, and finance a global reset. It's claimed to contain immense assets and to be controlled by administrators to release funds to humanitarian projects. According to Media Grid, 2026 is the year the lock breaks. The world's most powerful fund was never a myth but a reality. The Saint Germain Trust is the world's most hidden financial weapon. Trillions of gold hidden from the people, held captive by the elite. But in 2026, the lock will break. It is the reset they cannot stop, and the justice they cannot escape. This is a massive global fund backed by physical gold and precious assets, accumulated and protected over generations, designed to operate outside of central banking systems. It was created to restructure global wealth after the collapse of the fiat debt model. Unlike speculative platforms or digital tokens, this fund is tied to tangible assets and is intended for real distribution to the people, not corporations, government, or think tanks, but the global population. It exists, it's structured, and its silence was never meant absence, but only a strategic delay. The war to free the Saint Germain Trust isn't being fought in newsrooms or courtrooms. It's being fought on digital servers, in military vaults, in the transfer of funds, and in geopolitical negotiations. It's about the silent collapse of central banks and the final audit of generations of theft. This is the historic moment when the people not only rise up but also receive their reward. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a financial coup for the people. Its activation is a process, not an announcement. And if you are still waiting for CNN to confirm it, you will be the last to know and the last to benefit. It's about being awake, informed, and prepared, not just spiritually but strategically. You were never meant to own land. You were never meant to be debt-free. You were never meant to retire with dignity. But now you will. Not because it was given to you, but because you got it back. Apocalyptic signs. Great events are coming according to Joseph Title, who claims that the world is approaching a stage of major changes and significant events that will bring crisis but also profound changes for humanity. He asserts that we are entering a phase of global transformation with events that will mark a turning point. He also mentions political, social, and economic crises, including conflicts between countries amid global instability, and warns about the increase in phenomena such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and extreme weather events. He states that major world events, natural, political, and social, are approaching, bringing crisis but also profound changes for humanity. Title suggests that there will be transformations in how energy is managed and significant technological advancements, along with a spiritual awakening of the collective consciousness. These events will also drive a shift in humanity's way of thinking. According to his predictions, a period of intense energy is beginning, which may bring conflicts, political changes, and major world events. Starting April 9th, Mars enters Aries, accelerating total global energy and fostering impulsiveness, tension, and rash decisions. The second half of April will be the most intense part of the transit, with key dates such as the 11th, 17th, 19th, 20th, and 24th, 25th. He states that there will be a fall of leaders, with forced reshuffling or departures of political and powerful figures from their positions. He also speaks of apocalyptic signs in the sky, such as the reddish skies seen in Australia, Greece, and Libya, which he links to future grave events. Reset News. You carry a power with you carry a power with you that only your ancestors could dream of, according to Liv Marion. The goal of wars is the annihilation of humanity, according to Crystal River. The final phase begins according to Jinti Code. The financial system collapses as the hidden battle intensifies. Since the 50s, NASA has digitally altered photos to conceal the presence of secret bases on the far side of the moon, according to Dan Willis. The Creator knows how steadfast and visionary you are. He chose you to do the hard work. You may be fulfilling a great purpose that we can comprehend, according to J. Newman. Either we achieve a qualitative leap or the human species will perish. Humanity's most important task is to mature our culture and behave like adults. The BRICS nations have just surpassed 6,000 tons of gold in 9 months, as if the dollar had an expiration date. Central banks see the reset coming, according to Mr. Poole. The names that appear in the Epstein files are on the boards of directors of every institution that underpins the current financial system. When those names fall, the system will collapse with them. We are entering the great energy war, according to Matt Bracken. This complex multi-actor war will revolve around energy flows between major national suppliers and consumers. There are not enough naval forces to guarantee the freedom of the seas that the world has enjoyed since the end of World War II. Middle East. Iran disrupts oil tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz after the attack on Lebanon. Trump says Israel's attack on Lebanon are not included in the ceasefire. Trump threatens a larger offensive if the Iran deal fails and keeps his troops in the region. Iran reports attack on one of its refineries after the ceasefire took effect. Iran believes that violations of the peace plan make a ceasefire unreasonable. 800 ships trapped in the Persian Gulf are trying to figure out if they can leave. Iran shares recommendations for ships to avoid mines in the Strait of Hormuz. China may have pressured Iran into reaching an agreement. Russia is transporting 175 Russian nuclear scientists out of Iran via Armenia. Russia and China vetoed the UN resolution authorizing the use of force to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The two-week ceasefire agreement puts Iran in control of the global energy supply chain, according to Mike Adams. The conflict in the Middle East drives up fertilizer prices by up to 35%. Netanyahu is serious about concessions to Iran. The ceasefire with Iran is not being implemented in Lebanon, which is suffering intense airstrikes. 6 months later, Israel still hasn't complied with the agreement stipulated in the Gaza ceasefire. Economy. Markets reacted with relief to the ceasefire. Stock rise and oil falls due to the ceasefire. Brent crude rises almost 3% to $97 amid uncertainty about the ceasefire in Iran. Markets lose their initial euphoria as reality sets in. Fear has turned into greed in the stock market. The US has spent over $42 billion in the war. The currency war implies a global revaluation. According to Freedom Fighter, the financial world is in transition, according to Rob Cunningham. Rising energy prices and war tensions fuel a global economic shift. Exxon warns of a $6.5 billion impact from the war. The world is rushing to buy treasury bonds as the financial system is turned upside down, says Sinful. The petrochemical supply crisis is causing Asian factories to shut down. The IMF warns that tokenization could introduce cryptocurrency risks into financial markets. Mark Andreessen calls AI job loss fears false. Europe. European weather policy forces industry to retreat. France has just withdrawn the last of its gold stored in the US, according to Lena Petrova. Tax hikes in France mask an impending crisis. Evidence points to Ukraine being behind the attempted sabotage of tax stream. Trump is considering punishing NATO allies with withdrawing troops for lack of assistance. A British official admits the UK is unable to rescue its own missing airmen. Vice President Vance visits Hungary to support Orbán. Spain. China chooses Spain as one of its priority countries to boost imports. Sanchez calls for the EU to suspend the association agreement with Israel and for Lebanon to remain in the ceasefire. Americas. Mexican truckers block freight routes in a nationwide strike. Debt defaults are on the rise in Argentina due to falling incomes and purchasing power. Greenpeace activists protest in Argentina against Milei's reform of the glaciers law. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.